They didn't even wait for the lawyer to speak. "She'll get nothing. Dad despised her," my sister Lisa declared the moment I walked into the room. No greeting, no eye contact, just that sharp, slicing sentence, loud enough for everyone to hear, as if she wanted it to linger in the air. I felt the words hit me like a blow to the chest. My grip on my son Noah's hand tightened. His small fingers curled back around mine, warm and trembling. I forced a shaky smile down at him, but he knew. He always knew. I hadn't even sat down yet, but the message was clear. I wasn't welcome. I wasn't family. I was just a thread they were here to cut loose. Lisa sat at the head of the conference table, perfectly composed in a navy blazer, her blonde hair pulled into a severe ponytail, her lipstick a bold crimson. Classic Lisa, dressed for a fight I didn't know I'd walked into. Then came the voice I dreaded even more. My Uncle Tom, Dad's older brother, let out a dry chuckle, leaning back in his chair, hands behind his head, a smug grin spreading across his face like a stain. "Even her kid knows she's a failure," Tom muttered, nodding toward Noah like he wasn't even a person. Noah's eyes dropped to the floor and my heart cracked a little more. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper. The air was heavy with the scent of polished wood, stale coffee, and Lisa's overpowering floral perfume. My pulse pounded in my ears, loud, hot, humiliating. I led Noah to the farthest chair at the end of the long oak table in the lawyer's office in Portland, Oregon, away from the pack. The chair squeaked as I sat, and Noah climbed up beside me, his legs dangling above the floor, hands folded in his lap like he was trying to vanish. Lisa turned her head slowly toward me, and when our eyes met, she smiled. A smile with no warmth, just pity laced with venom. "You know this is pointless, right?" she said, her voice smooth and icy. "Dad rewrote the will, cut you out completely, said you were dead to him." I couldn't respond. My tongue felt heavy, useless. I just nodded slightly like I understood, but inside I was screaming, why did I even come? I thought maybe there'd be something, a note, a line, a sign he remembered me, something to make sense of it all. Instead, I was back in a place I swore I'd never return to, surrounded by people who'd already buried me long before they buried him. Just as I was about to stand, to leave before they started dividing the estate like scavengers, the door creaked open. Mr. Bennett, my father's lawyer, entered the room, clutching a thick folder under his arm. He looked the same as ever, neatly pressed suit, weary eyes, a face that gave nothing away. The room fell silent. Everyone sat up straighter. This was it. I braced myself for humiliation. I came expecting nothing, and I'd leave with exactly that, or so I thought. Because what no one in that room knew, not Lisa, not Tom, not even me, was that my son Noah had brought something with him. And with one sentence, he would unravel everything they thought they knew. "You forgot the video he recorded." It had been 8 years since I last stepped into a room with my family. 8 years since I packed up a life they said I didn't deserve, took Noah, only 2 at the time, and left without looking back. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because every conversation with my father, William, ended in silence or shouting. Because every family gathering felt like walking on broken glass while pretending to smile. But now I was back in a sterile lawyer's office in Portland that somehow still carried the faint scent of cigar smoke and old resentment. The irony, I didn't even know I was invited to the will reading. The envelope arrived 3 days after the funeral. No note, just the date, time, and address in Bennett's formal handwriting. For a moment, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe they meant to send it to Lisa, or maybe it was a cruel final jab. But Noah wanted to go. He looked at me with those wide, gentle eyes, his voice quiet but sure. "We should go, Mom," he said. "Maybe there's something you need to hear." I don't know how a 10-year-old can hold that kind of wisdom, But he does. Sometimes I think he sees the world in ways most adults never will. So we came. I wore the simple gray dress I hadn't touched since my mother's funeral, and he wore a little navy button-up he picked out himself. I tied his hair back that morning with shaky hands, and he told me I looked pretty. He didn't know I'd barely slept, that I was terrified to face the people who'd treated me like a shadow for nearly a decade. They all thought they knew me. Lisa, the perfect daughter, she stayed, she helped, she took care of Dad, and she made sure everyone saw her doing it. She told the story so many times it became the truth. Emily abandoned the family. Emily couldn't handle real life. Emily ran away. They never asked why I left. They didn't know, or didn't care, that Dad stopped speaking to me after I refused to stay in a marriage that was breaking me. That when I showed up at his door with Noah in a suitcase, he closed it without a word. That the one person who was supposed to protect me had become another wall I had to tear down. Uncle Tom didn't help. He was Dad's echo, always repeating the same bitter lines. Family doesn't quit. Blood is loyalty. Don't come back crying. And Lisa, she absorbed it all and turned it into a weapon. So I stopped trying. I built a quiet life for Noah and me. We didn't have much, but we had peace, love, and laughter. Still, part of me held on to the smallest, most fragile hope that maybe in the end, Dad had seen something, regretted something, left something behind. Maybe that's why I opened the envelope, why I showed up. But now sitting in that room, surrounded by cold eyes and smug smiles, I felt foolish for hoping. Noah hadn't said a word since we sat down. He sat straight, hands in his lap, eyes scanning the room like he was studying each face. His calm unnerved me a little, like he was waiting for something. And then Mr. Bennett cleared his throat and opened the folder. I leaned back in my chair and whispered to myself, just get through this. Don't let them see you break. But Noah, he was holding on to something bigger than grief. And before this was over, he'd prove he was the only one in the room who truly listened to my father. Mr. Bennett cleared his throat again, the way lawyers do when they want attention without asking for it. He adjusted his glasses, flipped open the folder, and began reading the will like it was just another day at the office. I barely heard the first few lines, standard legal jargon, estate definitions, executor declarations. My mind was racing, not with what he was saying, but with what I knew was coming. He wouldn't say my name, I was sure of it. Still, every time he paused to turn a page, I held my breath, hoping the next words might be different, might surprise me. But no, it was all the usual suspects. To my daughter Lisa, I leave the primary residence and all its contents. Lisa's face didn't change, but I could feel her satisfaction radiating across the table. She glanced at her husband, Mark, who gave her a smug little nod, like they were already planning to redecorate. To my brother Tom, the cabin on Mount Hood, and all remaining shares in the family business. Tom leaned back further in his chair, arms crossed, chin high, like a conqueror claiming his prize. I watched him slide a toothpick between his teeth and bite down, like he'd already won something. To my nephew Daniel, the antique watch collection. Daniel, the cousin who once threw my diary into the lake at a family picnic just to laugh at me. That Daniel. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep my face from breaking. I could feel the tears gathering behind my eyes, hot and sharp, but I wouldn't let them fall. Still, no mention of me, not even a footnote. Then came the line I'd been dreading. And as previously declared, my daughter Emily will not receive a portion of this estate. There it was, simple, final, like a door slamming shut. I felt like I'd been hit in the chest. Noah's fingers slipped into mine under the table. I hadn't even realized my hands were clenched in my lap. His touch grounded me, kept me from drifting too far. I could feel my heart beat behind my eyes, my skin burning. And then came the whispers, low but deliberate. Lisa let out the softest scoff. Told you, she muttered to Mark. Uncle Tom shook his head, like it was all so predictable. Takes a certain kind of person to abandon her own father, he said, louder than necessary. The others, the cousins, the family friends, who'd once smiled politely while ignoring my pain, didn't say much, but their silence was just as loud. I stared down at the table, the wood grain swirling in patterns that felt almost hypnotic. It was easier to look at that than their faces. I could hear my own voice in my head, flat and hollow. Why did I come? Why did I think he'd remember me? But then Noah moved. He let go of my hand and sat up straighter. I felt the shift before I saw it. His voice cut through the tension like a small, sharp knife, soft but unshakable. You forgot the video he recorded. The room froze. Lisa blinked. Tom turned. Mr. Bennett paused, pen hovering over the page. I looked at Noah, confusion flooding my mind. What video? I asked, barely above a whisper. But Noah wasn't looking at me. He was looking straight ahead, steady, certain. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small white envelope, slightly crumpled but sealed tight. My name was on the front, but underneath, in Dad's handwriting, for the lawyer only, if it gets ugly. I didn't understand it yet, but Noah did, and suddenly, for the first time all day, I felt the balance in the room shift. I stared at the envelope in Noah's hands like it might explode. He held it so calmly, like it wasn't the most dangerous thing in the room, but my eyes were locked on the handwriting. Sharp, all caps, unmistakable. My father's. For the lawyer only. If it gets ugly. Well, it had gotten ugly. I could barely find my voice. Noah, where did you get that? He looked up at me, his expression soft but steady. Grandpa gave it to me a while ago. He told me to keep it safe. My heart stuttered. He gave it to you. He nodded. The day I visited him, just me and him. You were at work. I blinked hard, trying to pull the memory into focus. I remembered that day. Noah had asked if he could go with my neighbor to drop off a package at Dad's. It was the first time I'd let him go without me. I had no idea they'd even spoken. Mr. Bennett reached across the table. May I? He asked gently, and Noah handed the envelope over without hesitation. The entire room leaned in. Lisa was squinting, like she couldn't make sense of it. Tom shifted in his seat, no longer relaxed. For once, nobody had anything to say. The envelope made a quiet tearing sound as Bennett opened it. Inside was a USB drive, small, black, ordinary, but my pulse raced like it was a bomb. Bennett pulled a note from the envelope, too. Another page in my father's handwriting. His eyes scanned it, and for the first time since he walked in, his composure cracked just slightly. I saw it. He didn't speak right away. He just nodded slowly, like something unspoken had been confirmed. Everyone, Bennett said, his voice quieter now. There is a video message from William Harris, recorded before the final version of this will. It was sealed with instructions to be played only if the situation became contentious. His eyes flicked to Lisa, then Tom. They both shifted in their chairs. Lisa scoffed. This is ridiculous. He didn't say anything about a video. Uncle Tom leaned forward, voice harder now. We don't know what's even on that thing. Could be fake. Bennett raised a hand. It's timestamp authenticated. I recognize the handwriting and signature, and per his instructions, I'm legally bound to play it. He plugged the USB into a sleek silver laptop on the desk beside him. The screen flickered to life, the logo dissolving into a black frame with a single word, play. The air in the room changed. No one spoke. No one moved. I could feel my heart beat in my fingertips. My breathing was shallow, shaky. Why would Dad leave a video? Why did Noah? What could he possibly want to say now, after everything? Noah didn't look nervous. He just sat still, eyes on the screen, like he already knew what was coming. Lisa looked pale now, her lips pressed into a tight line. Tom had stopped chewing his toothpick. I wanted to run, to cry, to scream, but mostly I wanted to know. Bennett hit the space bar. The screen went black for half a second, then flickered, and suddenly, there he was. My father, older, thinner, sitting at his desk, wearing the gray cardigan I'd bought him for his last Christmas, the one I didn't know he'd ever worn. His hands were folded, his expression not cold, just tired. He looked straight into the camera and started to speak. I didn't breathe. Not when the screen lit up. Not when I saw his face. Not when I heard the first two words leave his mouth. Hi, Emily. He looked older than I remembered. His skin had thinned. His once straight posture had softened. But it was still my father, William Harris, sitting at that familiar desk with the old brass lamp behind him. Just like when we were kids. Only this time, his expression wasn't stern or distant. It was human. If you're watching this, he continued, I'm gone, and I'm guessing things didn't go well at the reading. His hands were clasped in front of him, fingers twitching slightly, a small nervous habit I had too. I didn't expect peace between you and the family. I know what they think of you. Hell, I know what I said about you. He looked down, swallowed. And I was wrong. My breath caught in my throat. My nails dug into the armrest of my chair. Noah glanced up at me, but I couldn't look away. I believed what Lisa told me. I believed Tom. I believed you left because you didn't care. I didn't ask questions. I didn't listen to you. Not once. You tried, and I shut the door in your face, on you and Noah. I heard Lisa shift in her chair, sharp and uncomfortable. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. Dad's voice cracked, just barely. I thought being strong meant being proud. That if you walked away, it was betrayal. But strength. Strength is showing up. It's protecting your child. And you did that. You did what I couldn't. His eyes glistened. My own vision blurred. I met Noah one day when he stopped by. Just the two of us. That kid, he didn't say much. But when I asked him about you, he just said, my mom is the safest place in the world. My hand flew to my mouth. I lost you, Emily. I see that now. I lost my daughter because I couldn't stop being right long enough to love you the way you needed. But I won't let my last act be pushing you away again. He cleared his throat and looked straight into the camera, steady. So I changed the will. There was a collective gasp in the room. Someone's chair creaked. Tom's, maybe. Lisa muttered something under her breath, but I couldn't hear it. I could barely hear anything but the sound of my father's voice. I've left the house to you and Noah, the savings, the retirement fund. It's yours, and a college trust for Noah. I know it doesn't fix what I broke, but I want you to have the peace I couldn't give you when I was alive. He paused, then leaned slightly closer to the camera. And if they're angry, let them be angry. You earn this. You lived through all of it and never stopped being a mother. That's more than I ever managed. A lump formed in my throat, so big I could barely breathe. I'm proud of you, and I love you, Emily. Always did. I just didn't know how to show it. And then just before the video faded to black, he added quietly, take care of my grandson. Tell him thank you. The screen went dark. No music, no transition, just silence. Pure, still, sacred silence. Around me, chairs squeaked. Someone sniffed. But I didn't move. I sat there, hand over my mouth, tears slipping down my cheeks, feeling like something I didn't even know I was carrying had finally been lifted. After all the years of noise, of blame, of exile, of silence, he heard me. He finally heard me. And in the quiet that followed, no one could take that away. No one spoke when the screen went black. Not Lisa, not Tom, not the cousins or family friends who'd once smiled politely while ignoring the weight I carried. Even Mr. Bennett sat still, his hand frozen above the mouse, as if stopping the video had also stopped time. And maybe in a way, it had. I don't know how long I sat there. My hand was still over my mouth, my cheeks wet, but I hadn't noticed the tears falling until I felt Noah's hand slip into mine again. He wasn't crying. He just looked up at me with a small, knowing smile, like he'd been waiting the whole time for the truth to finally find a voice. I leaned down and kissed the top of his head, my heart aching with something too big for words. Love, relief, grief, all knotted together. Across the room, Lisa stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. She grabbed her bag with shaking hands and walked out without a word, her husband trailing behind, red-faced, mumbling something under his breath. Tom stayed seated longer, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on nothing. When he finally stood, he looked at Bennett like he wanted to argue. But even he knew there was nothing to fight. My father had spoken, and his truth was now undeniable. The others followed one by one. Some couldn't meet my eyes, a few offered quiet nods. Pity, or maybe respect, I couldn't tell. Soon it was just the three of us left. Bennett gently closed the folder and cleared his throat. "There will be some paperwork," he said, his voice softer than before. "But everything's in order." I nodded. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? He gave a small, genuine smile and left us alone in the room. The silence that followed wasn't the same kind I'd grown used to. This silence was peaceful, whole, like something had finally settled into place. I looked at Noah, still holding my hand, still looking at me like I was the strongest person in the world. And maybe in his eyes I was. But he was the one who saved me, who carried that envelope like it was just a piece of paper, not the truth that would rewrite everything. We stayed a little longer. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed time to breathe. Maybe I wanted to sit in the one room where, for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. I kept hearing Dad's voice in my head. "I'm proud of you." 3 words I thought I'd never hear, words I needed more than I'd ever admitted. I thought about everything I'd carried, years of silence, of being blamed, of being erased. And now I wasn't erased. I was seen, heard, remembered. I looked at Noah again. "Thank you," I whispered. He tilted his head. "For what?" "For being braver than me," I said. "For holding on to something that mattered." He smiled. "I just wanted you to hear him." And I had, not just in the video, but in the shift that came after, in the peace that filled the room once everyone else had left. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't always come when you want it, but when it does, it changes everything. So no, I didn't walk out of that room broken. I walked out holding my son's hand, with my father's words still echoing in my chest. I walked out whole, and that silence finally meant something. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever been pushed aside, misjudged, or made to feel like your voice didn't matter, just know this: you are not invisible. Sometimes the truth takes time, but it will come to light. If you felt something while reading, please share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Stories like this only reach the people who need them most when you help them travel. And if you want more real, raw, and emotional stories just like this, don't forget to follow for more. There's so much more to tell. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and remember, your voice matters.